What happens when adult children cut off their parents? Real stories. There is a silence that doesn't come from distance, it comes from decision. It's the kind of silence where a phone number still exists but is never dialed. A birthday still arrives but is never acknowledged. A mother still wakes up thinking, maybe today, and a son still goes to sleep thinking, I had no other choice. Cutting off a parent is not a dramatic movie moment. It's not a slam door with background music. It's a slow emotional collapse that eventually turns into a permanent boundary. And for many families in English-speaking countries like the United States, the United Kingdom, and Canada, this is becoming more common than anyone wants to admit. These are not villains and victims in a simple sense. These are people shaped by years of love, misunderstanding, control, trauma, pride, and exhaustion. What happens when adult children cut off their parents? Let's walk through real-life inspired stories. Story 1. Daniel from Manchester. The son who finally left the house but never returned emotionally. Daniel grew up in a quiet suburb of Manchester, England. From the outside, his family looked perfect. His father, Richard, was a disciplined accountant. His mother, Helen, worked as a school administrator. The house was always clean. Dinner was always at 6. Rules were always rules. But inside that structure, Daniel never felt like a person, only a project. Don't sit like that. Speak properly. Why can't you be more like your cousin? Daniel learned early that love in his house came with conditions. By the time he was 18, he left for university in London. His parents called it growth, but Daniel felt it was escape. At first, calls were frequent, weekly, then monthly, then only holidays. One winter, during his final year, Daniel told his parents he would not be coming home for Christmas. He had been invited to stay with friends in London. His father's response was cold. If you don't come home, don't bother coming back at all. Daniel didn't. That was the beginning of the cutoff. Years passed. Messages went unanswered. His mother sent emails that started with, "We miss you," and ended with, "You are breaking this family." But Daniel had already broken something else long before that. His emotional connection to them. At 29, Daniel got married. His parents were not invited. At 31, his father had a heart surgery. Daniel found out through a cousin on Facebook. He did not visit. People judged him. How can you abandon your parents? But Daniel had a different question. How long is a child supposed to keep bleeding just because the wound came from family? Today, Daniel lives in Bristol. He still thinks about his parents, but from a distance that feels more like history than home. Story 2. Emily from Boston. Love that felt like control. Emily grew up in Boston, Massachusetts. Her mother, Karen, was a single parent after her father left when she was 6. Karen was strict, but not in the obvious way. She didn't shout much. She didn't hit. Instead, she controlled through guilt. You're all I have. After everything I sacrificed, this is how you repay me. If you leave me, I don't know what I'll do. Emily became her mother's emotional support system far too early. She wasn't allowed sleepovers. She wasn't allowed privacy. Even in college, Karen demanded daily video calls. At first, Emily thought this was normal. She's just lonely, she told herself. But in relationships, Emily struggled. Every partner felt like a betrayal of her mother. At 27, Emily met someone named Josh. He was kind, patient, and confused why Emily cried after not replying to her mother's messages for a few hours. One night, Karen called 27 times in a row. Emily was on a date. When Emily didn't answer, Karen texted, "I hope you're happy abandoning your mother." That night, something snapped, not loudly but quietly. Emily moved out within 2 weeks. The cutoff didn't happen instantly. It happened gradually. First, fewer calls, then no calls, then blocked numbers. Karen sent letters, then emails, then stopped altogether. Years later, Emily says something that sounds simple but carries weight. "I didn't stop loving my mother. I stopped drowning in her." Story 3. Michael from Toronto. When respect becomes fear. Michael grew up in Toronto, Canada, in a household where respect was not mutual. It was enforced. His father, George, believed authority was absolute. A child's opinion was not just irrelevant, it was disrespectful. "If I pay for this house, I make the rules." Michael never questioned it as a child. But as he became an adult, the rules became unbearable. At 20, Michael got a job in software development. He moved out quickly, thinking distance would help. But his father demanded access to everything: bank account updates, work details, even relationship status. When Michael refused, the conflict escalated. "You think you're independent? You're nothing without me." The final breaking point came when George insulted Michael's fiancée during a family dinner. Michael stood up, left the house, and didn't return. After that night, he changed his number. His mother tried to reach him secretly at first, but eventually stopped under pressure. Michael still remembers the exact moment he realized the cutoff was permanent, when he stopped feeling anxious about their calls. Not sad, not angry, just free. And that freedom came with grief attached. Because cutting off a parent is never just about them. It is also about losing the version of family you wished you had. Story 4. Olivia from New York, the cycle breaker. Olivia grew up in Queens, New York. Her mother struggled with emotional instability, and her father was absent for most of her life. From early childhood, Olivia became the emotional caretaker of her mother. She cooked. She calmed her during breakdowns. She learned to read moods before words. By the time Olivia was 16, she felt older than her own mother. When Olivia turned 18, she left for college and never returned home again. Her mother didn't take it quietly. There were threats of illness, claims of abandonment, public posts on social media calling Olivia ungrateful. But Olivia had already made a decision. She would not repeat the cycle. At 25, Olivia went to therapy for the first time. That's when she realized something painful. "I didn't leave my mother because I hated her. I left because I needed to learn how to exist as myself." Today, Olivia works in social services in Chicago, helping young adults facing family estrangement. She often says, "Sometimes love means distance, not because you stop caring, but because you finally start caring about yourself too." What really happens after the cutoff? Across these stories, something common appears. Cutting off parents is rarely impulsive. It is usually the final step in a long emotional negotiation that failed silently for years. After the cutoff, life doesn't become instantly peaceful. It becomes complicated. Some children feel relief. Others feel guilt. Many feel both at the same time. Parents, meanwhile, often cycle through denial, anger, bargaining, and eventually resignation or continued pursuit. Family gatherings become empty chairs. Holidays become quieter. Memories become heavier. And society rarely knows what to do with this kind of grief because there is no funeral for a living relationship. The emotional reality no one talks about. There is a misconception that adult children who cut off parents are cold or ungrateful. But in most cases, the decision is not about lack of love. It is about survival. People do not usually cut off healthy relationships. They cut off relationships that feel emotionally unsafe, controlling, or consistently damaging. Still, the emotional cost is real. Guilt that arrives at unexpected times. Grief for what could have been. Relief mixed with loneliness. Confusion during milestones like weddings or births. So pressure from extended family. And for parents, loss of identity, shame in social circles, attempts to rewrite or deny the past, longing that doesn't fade easily. There is no simple resolution. Sometimes reconciliation happens, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes distance becomes permanent peace. Sometimes it becomes permanent pain. Closing reflection. If there is one truth in all these stories, it is this. Family bonds are not only formed by biology, they are maintained by behavior. Love without respect becomes control. Authority without understanding becomes fear. Care without boundaries becomes suffocation. And when those patterns continue long enough, distance becomes the only language left that speaks clearly. Closing note. If this story made you reflect on family, boundaries, or relationships, take it as a reminder that every family has a hidden story behind closed doors. Thank you for reading. Good luck on your journey, and take care of yourself. And if you want more deep, emotional, real-life inspired stories like this, don't forget to stay on this channel and subscribe for more content.